What up? What up? We are back with another episode of Warning Track North with your boys, the Stuntman and the Lazarbeam. Chris, 2026 Blue Jays have finally kicked off their series, and I have to say, although we're not, and by we, I mean they, although they're not undefeated, I've been pretty impressed with where things are at. I mean, for a Blue Jays team that I was projecting to go 162-0, of course, because, why wouldn't we be projecting that? I would say that we are well on our way to having ourselves a great year. And by we, I mean they. They have 4 wins, 2 losses, and 2 of those losses come against a team that I was fully expecting to sweep, which means the Blue Jays season is in full swing, just a few games in. Why are we recording today? Well, a postponed game against the White Sox allowed us to hop onto a pod, do some first impressions, tee up the next few series, and then we'll get back into it after, hopefully, they sweep the Dodgers. Now that I've done the kiss of death, let me introduce our illustrious co-host, the Lazarbeam. What's going on, buddy? Do you also have first impressions that fit like mine?
There's a lot to unpack there. You went right in. I was caught off guard. It's pretty good. Yeah, I mean the season doesn't start until you lose to a shitty baseball team and get mad about it, right? Like that's really when the season doesn't start till you go, how did they lose that game? Like that's when the season really starts, right?
Correct. Like, and 14-5 against the Rockies was my what the hell is going on game, and it was only the 4th game of the year.
I mean, to be fair, they had like a bunch of those runs came against Tyler Heineman. The rest of the runs came against Brandon Little. Like, might as well have been me and you throwing against them. You know, like it was not great. We'll get into Brandon Little later. We don't need to start on that already. This is going to be a mainly positive first impressions. I will say.
I'm here for it.
What I will say too about the Jays' start to the season, and obviously we'll go into first impressions here shortly. It's amazing how much grace you get as a team when you go to a World Series. Like we haven't experienced this as like Jays fans for a long time. Well, you're a Cardinals fan, but you're a pseudo Jays fan as well. It's really interesting, right? Because like, let's say the Leafs were to lose like back-to-back games to the Chicago Blackhawks when they were expected to be really good, or the Arizona Coyotes, or one of these teams back when the Leafs were actually like not a shell of a hockey team. The sky's falling, right? Like the sky's falling when you lose a couple games like this. But you go to a World Series, you sweep the first series of the year, you get a little grace, right? Like you get a little grace. The thing that is so difficult for people to remember, and I mentioned this before, remember what I said? I said, hey, if they don't sweep the first 3 series of the year, don't freak out, right? Like
Correct.
It's a very long baseball season, right? It's very hard to understand just how long the season is when you're just at the beginning of it. They've played 6 games. They've played a full week of baseball pretty much. They still have 156 games to go. They're going to do this, like, I'm not good at math, but they're going to do this, like, I don't know, 20 more times, right? Like a stretch of games, like 20 more times. So like, yeah, it's very early. I have my thoughts also on the schedule, and how it didn't necessarily favor the Blue Jays. But we can get into that as we go.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, we're not hitting the panic button. We shared a few text exchanges back and forth where panic was not the word that was used, but some other verbiage, mostly get this guy off my team, a.k.a. Brandon Little. You were maybe buying a little stock in that guy. I mean, it's fresh. There's no way he could possibly come back and be any worse than he was last year. Enter Brandon Little of this season, Who has a worse ERA than position player Tyler Heimanen? I'm just saying. I'm just saying if you were considering buying any more stock, I would highly advise you to not. As we have both agreed, that guy should be DFA'd. Now, things have changed. We have seen this Blue Jays rotation change in just those 6 days. And I think we will obviously get into that. And we want to talk a little bit about Cody Ponce and his unfortunate return. Damn, that's crazy. Maybe turf is the issue. Maybe not. Who knows? Maybe a separate discussion. Point is, we get a chance to look at almost a fresh Blue Jays team going into a second week of baseball tomorrow, which is kind of cool. Or maybe not, depending on how you're trying to look at,
We'll see how it goes. We won't know until it's over. We won't know how cool it was.
At the end of the day,
it'd be really cool to go 5-1 in the next 6 games. Like then it's 100%.
Cool. At the end of the day, correct. The Blue Jays were able to put up a sweep against the Athletics, not without some drama, and then it was a bit of a rocky go against the Rockies. And now here we are, setting up a series against the Chicago White Sox that was supposed to start today. That is now no longer, and will start tomorrow afternoon. I think they're starting it at like 2:00 now or something, unless I'm crazy.
I thought it was 4. Let me check.
They've been doing some weird things, and I only mention that because I do know that it's their home opener, and they have some stuff to get going. So there's a good chance that the 2:00 time frame that I saw was so they can start their ceremony. Not that they're celebrating being the second worst team in baseball. However, I will say also, side note, the fact that the Blue Jays took 7 ceremonies to celebrate being second place was a little crazy on opening night.
Oh my God, you're going to hate on those ceremonies?
I'm not.
There's no way you're hating on the opening ceremony.
I'm not hating.
There's no way.
Wait, which one? The first one? The second one? The third one? The fourth one? The fifth one? Which? I understand. There were like 8 ceremonies. You had the banner, you had the players come out, then you had the Oakland Athletics come out and get mad. Brandon Rooker was pissed because players had no idea where they were supposed to go and line up, and it was pretty funny. But I am here for it. It's been 30 years since this team had the opportunity to celebrate something special, which was making it to a World Series. I just think we could have done with like 3. I just felt like every time they cut to something or they move the camera, I was like, oh my God, there's another. What are we doing here? Now we're doing it maybe we'll do it in a different language. Now maybe we'll bring out somebody else. And now we're going to talk about this. And now we're going to I get it. Let's just play baseball. If not, start it early. I'm just kind of sitting there going, I'm cool with delays, but 45-minute delay to start the year. Anyway, it doesn't piss me off as much because the team won. Point is, that's my little rant. That's my Redbird rant. It's a Bluebird rant today, and it's just, let's get on with the game.
You sound like an old man yelling at a cloud right now with that take. That's a bad take. That's a bad take.
Get on with the game. Get on with the game. And now we can, because I'm not even going to let you comment on your part of it. You're pro. That's fine. You're here for it. Everybody got a chance to celebrate. I'm going to sit here and go, let's get on with the game. So let's get on with the games that we got a chance to see. You and I share the same sentiment in that this team has come in this year with confidence. And a confidence that we didn't really see until later in the year. But they've come in with it this season. And we like when that swagger can be brought from game 1. You mentioned the word vibes. Talk to me about the vibes of this team right now.
Well, so this is where I get to get into the opening ceremony because I was going to comment on that. Yeah, I was gonna comment on the on the opening ceremonies and stuff. So I will say this just to rebuttal on your point and then explain to you why you're wrong, and then we'll move on from that subject. keep in mind, opening day ceremonies in the first place, when there's nothing to celebrate or nothing going on, those are like 20 minutes long. Like, no matter what. Like, that's your baseline is 20 minutes, right? Now you're adding into account that it's the 50th anniversary of the team, right? So you're going to have some more pomp and circumstances that comes with the 50th anniversary
That's
of the
one.
team. Plus, you have a season that was worth celebrating. It was one of the greatest seasons in franchise history, and so that's two. And then yeah, just opening day in general is three, and then you also have the player intros, right? Which that's like four things. So if you're working with a baseline of 20 minutes for opening day, right? Like no opening day game has ever started earlier than half an hour like delay basically. You're always kind of anticipating a half hour delay. So the fact that it was a 40-minute delay really isn't that crazy when you really think about it. Um so like that's fine. The other reason I was cool with it is because Shapiro kind of talked about it pregame. He talked about it in his press conference and stuff that we are going to celebrate 2025. We are going to celebrate it really really hard at the beginning, and then once the first pitch is thrown, it's on to 2026. We will not talk about 2025 anymore. And so I was okay with that long drawn out opening ceremony because of that fact. It's like it's the only time we're going to celebrate this. It's not like they're going to go out and do this every day where it's like, hey, every day we're going to remind you of 2025, right? It's one time you're trying to recap a full season in one go and then move on, right? So kudos to them again. They like I thought it was great. When I heard Iris and the fans talking to the players, and I see George crying and Vladdy's crying and I'm crying and everyone's crying, and like it was very emotional. It was very touching to see just like unless you're like a true like bleed blue diehard Jays fan. Like the Toronto Blue Jays are my first love, right? Like they were my first love. It's the first team I ever loved. It's the first team I ever cared about. Um, I remember going to the Rogers Center for the first time in my life in 2004, and I saw Carlos Delgado hit 2 home runs against the New York Yankees in a game, and one of them landed 3 feet away from me. Um, like it's it's been a long time, right? And like I've like personally, and I'm not the only one, right? But a lot of people that are my age have never really gotten to experience the payoff. We had 2015, obviously, but that team lost in the ALCS in 6 games, right? This team went to the World Series. They're 3 feet away from winning a World Series. And just like the way they played and the vibe and like the never give up attitude and all the things that like they're everything you could possibly dream of your favorite sports team, right? And so like for it to be that like it really was that special. And I think it deserved a unique special ceremony. So we'll tie a knot on the opening ceremony. We're not going to talk about that anymore. Just like how the Jays aren't going to talk about 2025 anymore, we're not going to talk about the opening ceremony anymore. That's going to be it. Talking about the vibes, as you asked me about 6 minutes ago when I started on that rant. Um, where I was going with that opening ceremony too was that it feels like the theme of that day of opening day was nostalgia, right? It was let's be nostalgic about last year, let's be nostalgic about the last 50 years, right? They brought out one guy that represented each decade of Blue Jays baseball. The only guy that would have been missing was Roy Halladay, which unfortunately obviously he wouldn't be able to attend. But they had Vernon Wells, Jose Bautista, all those guys. And who's going to define the next decade of Blue Jays baseball? It's going to be Vladdy, right? Like when we do a 60th anniversary, Vladdy's going to be the guy for that decade. And when I talk about the vibes and the vibes never leaving is my overarching feeling watching the first 2 games of 2026 is that it really did feel just like a continuation of 2025. Like it felt like we never left. Gosman talked about how he felt like he was warming up for game 8 of the World Series. Like he didn't even feel like he was warming up for the start of a new season, right? And the way they won those first 2 games, right? First game of the season where, we'll talk about the Jeff Hoffman of it all, but blowing the lead in the 9th and then winning anyway with a walk-off. Game 2, going down by 4 runs in the 7th inning, finding a way to claw back and win that game in extras, tying that game in the 9th. Like, just the never say die Blue Jays that they were last year, right? they're back, and they're back already, right? And that's very exciting to know that that culture and that feeling has remained. At least early in the season, we'll see how the rest of the year plays out. But early in the season, that's how it feels, and it's it's a great place to be as a fan when you feel like your team's never out of a game. And I never feel like the Blue Jays are out of a game, except when they go down by 10 runs to the Rockies on a Monday night and Tyler Heineman's pitching. That's the only time they're really out of a game. But it's that's what defined them last year. And early in the season, that scrappiness is kind of what's defined them as well. Because you look at their wins, right? You got game one, where, as we already detailed, game one and two. Game three was just a clean win. And then their fourth win of the season against Colorado was another scrappy win, right? Like they managed to string together some hits, put together a rally, right? Grind out that game, and pitching did their thing, right? So yeah, it does feel very, very similar to 2025, and that's Jays fans should be very excited about that because 2025 was a great year.
I have to say, I do think it's a little ironic that you mention the whole Ross Atkins, we're not going to talk about last year after the first pitch is thrown this year, only to then immediately have to talk about the demons from last year because of two individuals in the bullpen. That irony will never get lost on me at all. I just think outside of them, that, like you said, that swagger, that confidence, that vibe, it's high. And when you want to talk about swagger, you have to start with the rotation. If you watch those first two games of this Blue Jays series, you may have actually thought this team was going to go undefeated. Those two 1-2 punch for the Toronto Blue Jays are absolute dogs. DOGS, dogs, or DAWGS, depending on how you prefer your spelling.
Really, depending on how old you are.
Oh, that's the other thing too.
Anyone under the age of 35 uses DAWGS.
But dude, I mean, Dylan Cease for me, absolute weapon. He came out through 12 Ks, a 1.69 ERA, gave up one earned run on 3 hits in 5 1/3. Absolute insane. And then I have to give it back to who I think, again, will be part of a Blue Jays no-hitter this year in some way, shape, or form. And if he throws the way he did in his first start of the year, it could very well be, the fact, he might have to come out of the game a little bit earlier to let the bullpen pick it up a little bit because he did have 4 hits in his first game. So he might not be solely responsible for a no-hitter. But Max Scherzer, absolute animal. An absolute animal. 6 innings pitched, 4 hits, 1 earned run, and 4 Ks. We're expecting that. We're not expecting a high K rate from Scherzer. But dude, you're 40 plus years old and you're topping up at 95? Disgusting. Disgusting. They credited his piano playing and all of that the whole time, which I just want to say, we talked about it first on the pod before Sportsnet did. So take that. And I maybe think maybe he heard us. Maybe he heard us wanting him to sound like an absolute animal. But no, I just want to take those. Like for me, those are my two big takeaways from the rotation. Were those two guys? Of course, Eric Lauer went out there and played a great game, pitched a great game. He also had 9 Ks. I mean, the Blue Jays set records for most strikeouts within those first 3 games, which is absolutely unreal. And it really gave us a whole lot of confidence watching that all go down. And then unfortunate that I then had to watch guys like Brendan Little, who has a 27 ERA through 2 1/3 innings pitched, 7 hits, 7 ERA, somehow has 4 Ks. I don't know. I'm not into it. I got it. They will slow burn this guy. they're not going to cut him loose anytime soon. I think they're going to slow burn this guy and see what happens. Like, I don't. This team has never been reactionary in that sense. So I don't know. Maybe they have to let his ERA inflate to 45 before they finally do something. But here we are. You have a rotation that's nasty and a bullpen that's questionable, but still overall pretty nasty. Um,
But that's the thing. Is it questionable, right? Like, so this is one of my early first impressions, and it's of the fans. It's not actually of the
okay,
team. And here's the thing: we can talk about Brandon Little, but I don't want to make this whole podcast about one
over
guy
it.
who
I'm
has
done now.
struggled.
I'm done
Okay,
now. I've said my piece. I've
you've
said my
you did your
piece.
thing.
He should be DFA'd, and if he is after this,
Well, you're not gonna.
yeah,
So here's the thing: you're not going to DFA him
no,
because he has an
correct,
option.
correct.
So I I do, and the thing is, I like. There's a reason that guys like me believe in Brandon Little stuff. His stuff is nasty. It's just between the ears for him. That's all it is. And um, yeah, like I personally think that it would do him a lot of good if he got sent down and had a chance to figure it out in Buffalo. I'm not ready to give up on the guy.
Right.
I think he might be ready to give up on himself, which really concerns
Correct.
me. But I'm not ready to give up on the guy. Um, anyway, so this is one of my first impressions of the fan base and kind of the way that this team is perceived is early this season. One of the things that people are really worried about is, oh my god, look how thin the bullpen is. Like the bullpen is so thin. And my response to that is it though? Because like I look at the bullpen and I go, who pitched poorly outside of Brandon Little this week? Like, he's the only guy that struggled, right? Spencer Miles gave up a 2-run bomb on Monday. Part of that is because he got hung out to dry. He got left out there a little longer than he should have. He's also a Rule 5 pick. What do you expect? I've been very impressed by the guy. I think he's been awesome so far. Yeah, he gave up a 2-run bomb. Is what it is, man. It's baseball. Sometimes you give up homers. Jeff Hoffman, obviously the first game of the year where he gives up that home run to Shea Langoliers, and everyone's got this PTSD. Part nobody wants to talk about is it was a good pitch. And it was just a really good swing from a great hitter who was Barry Bonds that week. Like he was like Jay Langoliers was unbelievable in that first
Nasty,
series.
so
And
nasty.
he beat Jeff Hoffman to a spot, and it is what it is. You know what Jeff Hoffman did the rest of that outing? He had 4 strikeouts in 1 inning. Like he has been nails, and his stuff has looked great. Tyler Rogers has been incredible to start the
So
year. He
good.
might throw every single game. Louis Varland has come as advertised. Exactly what you expect from Louis. That's what you've gotten so far. Mason Fluharty's been great. Braden Fisher's been great. Like you go down the list of guys and you go, which of these guys are you mad about outside of Brandon Litt? Like I understand the one guy who has struggled, right? And he's responsible for one game getting away, and he's not actually responsible for losing the last one because the last game they scored 1 run in 10 innings against the Colorado Rockies. I'm not going to hold it against the guy. I actually thought Brandon Little pitched pretty well in that game yesterday. So, like, let's stop with this narrative that the bullpen is in shambles or it's too thin or whatever. Keep in mind also, the reason it looks thin is because they don't have a long man right now. Why don't they have a long man? Because they have injuries in the rotation. They're missing 4 of their top 8 starters. It is hard to survive in Major League Baseball when you're missing 4 of your top 8 starters. The fact that the top 4 guys in this rotation right now are who they are, and you see the reinforcements coming, they're going to be just fine. I'm really not worried about it at all. And once that happens, one guy's going to go to the bullpen. It's probably going to be Lauer, right? Whether he deserves it or not, because he has that skill of being able to go to the pen. Think about that game on Monday where Cody Ponce gets hurt in the 3rd inning, right? The lack of a long man is what's hurting this team right now. However, fast forward a little bit from now, Eric Lauer's in that role. Guy gets shelled, maybe not even injured, right? Let's say Max Scherzer has an off day. He's done in the 2nd inning of a game. You got Eric Lauer there that can eat 5-6 innings, right? Saves your bullpen. Now you're set up pretty well for the rest of the series, right? Like, it's like they're going to be fine. They're kind of scrambling a little bit right now because of the injuries in the rotation, but that stuff is going to normalize. And yeah, if they have 4 guys out of their top 7 starters hurt the entire season, it's going to be hard for any team to be successful doing that. It doesn't look like it's going to be that way. It looks like it's just going to be a few weeks here that we're going to have to deal with this. But they're going to be just fine. I'm really really not that worried about it. Um, yeah, obviously Brandon Little's got to get his shit together. That's without saying, right? Like we're not going to sit here and beat a dead horse about how bad he's been. Obviously he's been bad. I will say I'm not selling my Brandon Little stock because I would get 10 cents on the dollar for it, but yeah, I'm not buying it either. So we'll see where he goes. But like I said, I was really encouraged by the rest of the bullpen and honestly the rest of the pitching. The pitching was great this week, right? Obviously, the numbers are going to look a little inflated because they had a catcher throw 2 innings and they had Brandon Little blow up in one game, right? Or a couple games. But outside of that, the rotation, awesome. Even Cody Ponce in that start, he looked great for the first 3 innings. And then he got hurt. It's unfortunate. It happens. I will say, though, on that Cody Ponce thing, was that one of the most unathletic injuries you've ever seen in your life? Like, not to hate on the guy, but he looked like a baby giraffe out there.
I
Like,
almost well, that's where I made that comment earlier about the turf because it almost was like, did he run at all in the outfield before he threw a ball for this team? Like, did he? You know what I mean? It looked like he hit.
well, it can't be the turf. It can't be the turf because 2 pitches before that, he tripped on the
Yeah,
dirt.
that's true. Well, that's like that's a good point. I kind of forgot that. Yeah, that's true. I forgot that. It's almost as though he had actually never stepped foot on the mound at all in Toronto and was like, "Fuck it, I don't know." Pardon me, but like, I don't need to. We'll just go out there and wing it the first time. And
Oh, it looked like he just forgot how to take a couple steps. Really, like it
just yeah.
it did not look.
Although escaping major injury at the end of the day. You texted me immediately and said this guy may have just like blown up his Achilles, and
It's what it
if
looked like on first look. Yeah, it's what it looked like.
if that happens, you're thinking that's it. Like that's
Well,
yeah,
season's over for sure.
you can maybe come back in the postseason. Like you have to rehab really hard. So yeah, an MCL strain is what they. Yeah, but it's like
I think it was ACL strain.
high grade, um, on the injury.
He's going to be done for a while. We're not going to see Cody Ponce. I would be
ACL,
personally.
correct.
I'm not a
That's my
doctor.
bad. Yeah, see, neither am I. Called it the MCL. It's the ACL. I'm not a doctor.
I'm no doctor, nor do I play one on TV. But I personally would be surprised if we saw him before the All-Star break. At this point, at the end of the day, like the positive for him is it looks like he's going to avoid surgery, which is great. But it is still going to be like a fairly long rehab. Like this is going to be a 2-3 month injury.
Yeah, they have no timetable. Yeah, no timetable for his return. However, he is traveling with the team to LA to undergo in-person evaluations on the knee.
Well, no, he'll be going separately then because the Jays don't go to LA.
Oh, that's what I.
anytime
But
soon.
yeah, the them coming. Yeah, they're
Right.
just passing. Yeah, they're like high fiving each other in the air. That was,
Basically.
or maybe they'll just wait and they could just fly him back after their series. I can't believe I dropped the ball there. Yes, we actually also
That's
talked
all right.
about the fact that you are going to get a chance to go to one of those games against LA, which would be
Look,
very
man,
cool.
it's early in the season for everybody, right? We just got to make sure we're sharp in October, right? Just like the Jays, we got to make sure we're sharp by October.
That was my 15-2 moment, or what 15-5, whatever the hell the score was.
15 to 14 to 5.
Garbage
Yeah.
game. Anyway, pitching, unreal. It's time to talk about some hitters and some offense. And I don't know. Every time I start one of these new topics today, it almost as though, as much as I want to celebrate, and I have lots to celebrate, it always comes with a little bit of and my for this one is the same thing we kind of talked about with that Team Canada during the WBC. It's left on base. It's runners left on base. It's maybe missed opportunities. And we saw that last year where they would score runs, but not, they had opportunities to score runs in bunches, and it didn't always happen. They scored runs during this stretch of games, but not necessarily in the bunches that we were seeing at times in the postseason, of course, as well. At the end of the day, I don't necessarily have any outstanding or, like major concerns. Everyone's seeing things well. Everyone's finding their groove. Everyone looks relatively good. No one looks like a disaster out at the plate there, in my opinion. Um, I mean, shout out Miles Straw, who looks like Barry Bonds right now. You have another version of Barry Bonds on this team. But I guess Miles Straw for me looks like Barry Bonds. This guy's got, 4 hits in 5 at bats, 3 runs scored for an 800 average. I mean, lock it up right now. That's it.
Stop the count, as Donald Trump once said. Stop the
Oh,
count.
unbelievable! But
Uh,
yeah, and at the end of the day, you've got guys hitting really well. Vladdy doing Vladdy things. I know you want to touch upon what he's offering right now. Ernie Clement doing Ernie Clement things. Jesus Sanchez looking great for the most part. The walks are there for Vladdy. He's seeing the ball really well. He's also being pitched around. You can tell guys are nervous to pitch to Vladdy this year, which is it's going to test him this year. It's going to test him this year, which maybe that's good. Test him now because then you're going to get 15 years of it. So, test him now. That's the way to do it. When you mentioned earlier that he would be part of the 60th, he might still be playing. So, there's a good chance that Vladdy's actually part of year 70 when they're celebrating the team in 2 decades from now. I just also want to say you might be onto something with your prediction of Okamoto being a, an award winner at the end of this season
Rookie of the
with
year.
yeah, exactly, with rookie of the year. That guy looks legit. He's hitting MLB pitching perfectly fine. He might be one of, if not the favorite, after those 6 games. Absolutely
Which is
unrealistic for
funny to
him.
say. When it's funny to hear you say that, considering that all I heard from you last week was how dumb it is to make predictions this early in the season, and now you're like, oh, he's the favorite after 6 games.
You look like a genius after 6 games. You also look
Yeah, but I also have the Brandon Little take, so
exactly. Thank you. You
I don't
took the
know.
words right
I
out
don't
of
know
my
how
mouth.
genius I look.
Sometimes maybe good, sometimes it may be shit. And in this case, you are, you're 50-50, man. That's winning odds, I suppose, in baseball. You're batting 500 on your takes. That's pretty good. Um,
If I was a hitter, I'd be doing really well. Unfortunately, takes you got to be better than fifty
Fair
percent.
enough.
But
I love Okamoto. I love what
yeah,
the hitting is doing. You have some things that you want to say. Obviously, you mentioned Vladdy pressing at the plate. Do you want to dive into that first, or you want to touch on something else first? I put you on the spot a little bit.
well, I mean, you kind of went all over the place with that. You kind of just talked about the whole offense. I feel like I have nothing left to offer. Um, I
Lots to
mean,
offer.
yeah, when it, um, yeah, like I think you made a good point about Vlad getting pitched around early in the season, and it really struck me actually in the last at bat of the game yesterday when the first pitch he saw from Jimmy Herget with tying run at third base was a fastball down the middle that he just watched go right by him. And my first thought was, it's almost like he was surprised that they threw a pitch right down the middle to him because he hasn't seen it. It's the only middle pitch he's seen basically in 6 games, right? Like he has not seen anything to hit really, right? And to his credit, like he's hitting the ball hard. Even after he took that pitch, next pitch was almost the same thing, right down the middle, and he pissed on it. He just hit it right to the center fielder. But obviously you're not worried about Vladdy. You know he's going to hit, but he is getting the Aaron Judge treatment. He's getting the we aren't going to let you beat us. Like we will let anyone beat us except for you. And it's where it's going to be really important for Okamoto if he's hitting fourth to be productive. It's going to be really important for Addison Barger when he's hitting behind Vladdy to be productive because they need to protect him. If they're not able to protect him, this is what he's going to see all year. And honestly, it might be what he sees all year anyway, right? And that's where Vladdy is going to have to be patient. He's going to have to learn to lay off those pitches, take those walks, get hit by a pitch every once in a while, right? And I'm not worried about that because Vladdy has matured so much as a hitter and as a player, and he is a leader now, like a true leader of this team. And he has shown a willingness to pass the baton to the next guy and show that trust in his teammates. And that works as long as the guys behind him are hitting. If those guys behind him aren't hitting, that's when it becomes difficult, right? Because who cares if Vladdy's on first if nobody can drive him in, right? So I think that he's pressing a little bit, and I think you can tell that he's pressing a little bit. He came to the plate with the bases loaded the other day, and I think he took a bases loaded walk. And George Springer was at second base, and I remember seeing Vladdy, like, he jumped at a pitch, and he didn't swing, but you could tell he's antsy, and he kind of like did a deep breath, and then they showed George Springer at second base, and George's like he's telling him like, hey, relax, like take a deep breath, like chill, and like you can tell that Vladdy like really wants to do something, like he really wants to contribute, he wants to hit, and he's getting a little bit frustrated that he's not getting his pitches to hit. I think he's handled it pretty well to this point. Again, I don't think he has an extra base hit yet. He doesn't have a home run yet, so I want to get that kind of going. He also historically has always been like this in the early parts of the season, at least as far as I can remember, where early in the season he hits for a lot of average, doesn't hit for a ton of power, right? And then the power kind of comes later on. And so it looks like we're kind of doing that again a little bit. Now I think he's going to turn it around a little quicker than he has in years past. But yeah, it's a little bit different than when you're hitting, like we talked about the World Baseball Classic, when he hit 3 home runs in the WBC and he was red hot and whatever. A little different when you're surrounded by guys like Juan Soto, Fernando Tatis Jr., Manny Machado, versus, no disrespect at all, but Alejandro Kirk and Addison Barger, right? Really good hitters in their own right, but they're not superstars, right? So it's going to be really important for those guys behind Vladdy to contribute and to hold up their end of the bargain so that Vladdy can start to see those pitches to hit, and also so he doesn't feel like he has to swing at bad pitches, right? Because if Barger can be the guy that I think he is, and he's gotten off to a bad start, I don't think he has a hit
He
yet.
does not. I was going to
16.
ask you. I was going to ask if you were worried at all. I say worried. I laugh because we're 6 games in. It's a long year. The word worry is thrown around very. It's a loose term at this point. 6 strikeouts though. No real. Nothing to show. Like no hits. 13 at bats and 6 strikeouts. So is there a concern there?
No, it's obviously not ideal. You would rather see him hitting to start the year, right? But I'm not going to go as far as to say I'm concerned. And actually, I had this conversation with one of my buddies the other day because he was telling me that how, Jays fans should be concerned about this and concerned about that. And I said, there is actually nothing that could happen outside of injury early in the season to make me concerned about the Toronto Blue Jays. I can't get concerned about this team until at least a month into the season if they're like 10-20 or whatever, right? Because they have built up so much equity, and I just saw them go to a World Series a year ago, and it's mainly all the same guys, right? And they all contributed back then. So I'm not, it's hard for me to be worried. The one thing about Addison Barger that I will say is it seems like he is going down the path, and this is where he's going to have to figure it out a little bit, but he's going down the path very similar to a Bo Bichette style hitter from the standpoint that Bo, at the end of his seasons, always had great numbers. But if you watched the games, Bo Bichette for 3 to 4 months a year wasn't very good. But for 2 months of the season, he was the best hitter on the planet, right? And Addison Barger, let's even go back to October. Up until halfway through that Mariner series, he couldn't hit. He was a liability at the plate. He couldn't hit at all. And then he hit a home run in Seattle, and then everything clicked, and then he was one of their best hitters in the World Series. Amazing the back half of that Seattle series, and the rest was history for him. But with all that, like all of that to say that I think that he is going to come out of this very soon, and I think that it is going to be very scary for the rest of the league because the one thing that Barger does is he hits the ball harder than the majority of players in baseball, and that's something that you can't teach. And guys who hit the ball that hard, it's very rare that they don't succeed and that they're not productive major leaguers, because that's the most important part of hitting is hitting the ball hard. So Yeah, not worried about him. Alejandro Kirk also, I think he's one for everything to start the season. He has the one home run in the ninth inning. Shout out Alejandro Kirk. I hit a $500 same game parlay that day. That was electric. But not really that worried about him either. He's going to be fine. We know he can hit. The thing in the lineup actually that and this is kind of my last first impression to talk about is you kind of touched on Okamoto. Just all of the new guys, I think, couldn't have fit in better or looked better in their roles to start the season than they have. I don't know if you can ask much more from Okamoto coming across from Japan um, than what he did this series. He is a professional hitter. It's the thing that I've learned the most about him through these first 6 games is he will give you a professional at bat every time. Sometimes he'll get beat, right? But even when he gets beat, you can tell that he has a plan, right? It's just sometimes pitcher adjusts quickly and he's still learning how to make those adjustments quickly because in the big leagues, they make adjustments much faster than they do in Japan. So he's adjusting to that, and I think he's going to be fine. I mean, again, he hit a couple of bombs already to start this year. Jesus Sanchez looks great, especially against right-handed pitchers. He's fit in great. He seems like he's just one of the guys, which is great. Did that interview fully in English after the game, which was really cool to see. Okamoto got doused with the Gatorade. It's really cool to see the way that everyone's kind of bringing them, like, coming together like quickly. Like I was talking about how the 2025 Blue Jays feels like a continuation. I found myself during those games kind of saying like, what do you mean Okamoto wasn't on the team last year? Like I swear he was on the team last year. And same with Sanchez and same with Tyler, right? Like these guys, they feel like Blue Jays, right? Like they feel like they belong. And so that's really, really encouraging. Obviously Tyler Rogers with the amazing start to the season for him. And then Cody Ponce is, I guess, the only negative, but it's not even really his fault, right? Like he got hurt. It's a freak injury. You don't expect something like that to happen. And like I said, he looked good in his first like 3 innings. So his first impression was pretty good. So yeah, it's the guys who aren't performing for the Blue Jays right now are guys who I expect to perform. Kirk, Barger, Vlad. Those guys, I expect that they will figure it out. Vlad, I know is going to figure it out. Barger, I have too much faith in his ability. Kirk, I've seen him do it too many times. Those guys are going to figure out and be positive contributors. Everyone else is doing their thing, right? So once those guys get going, it's only a matter of time before this team takes off.
6 games played, just over 200 at-bats. And overall, this team is hitting .263. At the end of the day, that's winning baseball because you really have to stick around, that number and 300 and just keep plunking away. Overall, I'm a big fan, and although I would like to see the 45 strikeouts maybe be cut back a little bit, I do like seeing 24 walks. I do like the fact that we've seen, 85 total bases. We've already seen 8 dingers and just more to come. Like the team's cooking and we're early. So let's keep cooking.
What was the batting average number that you said for this year so far?
263.
263. So I don't believe the batting average is the most important stat in the world, but the Jays led the league in batting average last year, and their average was 265. So it looks like they're, to this point, they are who we thought they were, right? So like
And
we're
well, yeah. I mean, if you also want to put smaller sample size because it's postseason baseball, but maybe that's arguably tighter competition and harder baseball to play. They finished the postseason with a 285 average. So
yeah, it's not really stable.
no, but it means that there's a chance we see just the offense finally start to click and you start to see those runs being scored in bunches as we know this team can do. At the end of the day, the next few games are going to be fun to watch. We've got now 4.
Well, the next three might be a slog.
Well, yeah, we were supposed to have a game today, so we will have 3 games starting tomorrow against the White Sox, and then the team goes back home to face the Dodgers for 3, That's going to be a lot of fun. And I cannot wait for you to get a chance to go and enjoy those games. And then I think our best plan, just looking at the schedule ahead, Lazarbeam, maybe we want to jump onto a pod next week on Thursday the 9th, and we can touch upon that, the Dodgers series, the White Sox series, and then let this team kind of breathe for a bit. And if we hopped on, say, another one in, a week later or even on the 23rd to wrap, we got some series to talk about. So we could look at doing off day pods here and there. Just to keep things fresh and keep things going and not necessarily getting stale. But if this team keeps winning and this team continues to perform well, I don't imagine we have any stale things to say. Um, this team's great. This team will be great, and I'm excited for the rest of this year. Any final thoughts before we send this off into the universe and catch everybody next week?
Just two quick ones. One underrated storyline about tomorrow: Dylan Cease starting in Chicago for the White Sox home opener. Former Chicago White Sox. Obviously, it's been a few years since then, so it doesn't exactly mean the same. But I can tell you that there are very few. Most athletes will tell you that the place where they started their careers or that they made their big impact, it always means a little bit more when you go back there. So, and especially on opening day for the home opener for the White Sox, I think Dylan Cease is going to be a little juiced up. My prediction is we're going to see a few more 100-mile-an-hour fastballs, which we saw one on Saturday. He only threw four last year. My bold prediction for tomorrow's game is that Dylan Cease is going to top his 2025 100-mile-an-hour season total tomorrow. I think he's going to throw at least four pitches over 100 miles an hour tomorrow. That's my prediction. That's number one. Number two, Dodgers series next week. I can't wait. It's going to feel like we're right back in October. It's going to feel like a playoff series immediately in April, and that's really really exciting because you almost never get juice like that for an April series. And the fact that we're getting that to start this year, like I said, with all the 2025 vibes, everything like that, it's going to be a real fun one. So I'm looking forward to talking about that. And yeah, I think I'm going to be in the building on Wednesday, so I'm excited to see what that looks like.
Depending on how those series go, or that series goes against the White Sox, and how the Dodgers fare against the Washington Nationals this weekend, both teams could be going into that series 7-2. Again, two great teams, two juggernauts going to war, and I cannot wait. We just got to get through this White Sox series first. That's all. But I'm not going to say anything negative about them. I want to be a little bit higher on them. And what we just saw with the Rockies, anything can happen. Ideally, we're on the winning side of one-run games against the White Sox. But who's to say? Folks, we will see everybody back here next week. And until then, I am the Stuntman. That is the Lazarbeam. And we will see you later. Ciao for now.